This plate was streaked with E. coli, and I did an all-over streak to cover the entire surface of the plate. This is 48 hours after the plate was inoculated. This technique that we're demonstrating here is called the Kirby-Bauer or the disc diffusion method. Each one of these little discs that you see here was soaked in a different disinfectant, and the purpose of this test is to see how effective each disinfectant is against the bacterium. So we see here, number one, that the bacteria are growing all the way up to the disc. This is actually Germ-X that I used here. So we can see that Germ-X is not effective against E. coli. We also see here in 4, this is alcohol, 90% isopropyl alcohol. You can see it also was not effective against E. coli. But we look at 2 and 3, we can see these were very effective against E. coli. 2 is hydrogen peroxide, and 3 is just regular hand soap, not even antibacterial hand soap, but just hand soap. And you can see that we have these zones around our discs. These zones are called zones of inhibition. And basically what happens is that when we look at these zones, the larger the zones, the more effective the disinfectant is. And what we can do is measure these zones. So I've got a ruler here, and I'll measure from one side to the other. So I'll go through the disc and measure from one side of the zone to the other, and we're going to measure these in millimeters. So this is my centimeter side that I'm using with my ruler here, and these large numbers are the centimeters, and all of the little lines in between are millimeters. There are 10 millimeters and 1 centimeter. So when I measure this, I'm going to see here that I am at 27 centimeters. So my zone of inhibition for E. coli, for hydrogen peroxide, is 27 millimeters. Okay. On 1 and 4, I don't have to measure. My zone is 0 because I don't have a zone at all. So my zone of inhibition is going to be 0 for 1 and 4. I'll also measure 3, and I'll do it the same way. I'll go across from one side to the other, and I am really similar to zone 2 here, or to my disinfectant in 2. I have, again, 27 millimeters for my zone of inhibition for 3, which is the hand soap. So I'm going to switch plates. So here is my next plate that I did with E. coli, and you can see in this plate that all 4 of these were somewhat effective. We have a zone of inhibition in all 4 of our areas here. So 5 is Hibiclens. Okay, this is sometimes given to pre-surgery patients to take a shower with or a bath with, to wash the bacteria off the surface of the skin so that none of those bacteria enter in when a surgery is performed. So this is against E. coli again, and with Hibiclens, my zone of inhibition is right at 2 centimeters, which would be 20 millimeters. In 6, I have a smaller zone, okay, and I'm going to kind of turn and measure my zone this way. This is mouthwash, okay, so a smaller zone, but still somewhat effective. And when I measure my zone here, I am at 13 millimeters. So my Colgate mouthwash is 13 millimeters. 7, this is 409 multi-surface cleaner. This does not propose to be antibacterial, but we can see that we do have a pretty good zone of inhibition with the 409. I've got 20 millimeters for the 409. And then in 8, I have a topical antiseptic solution, what you might buy over the counter at Walmart. This is a 100% povidone iodine solution. Pretty similar to betadine, which is used in surgery applications. So I'll turn the plate and measure. And I am at about 19 millimeters for the iodine solution. Look at my last plate with E. coli, and so in 9 I have vinegar. Now you'll see that I have 0 millimeters as my zone of inhibition here. The E. coli has grown all the way up to the disc. We see 10 very, very effective. You see that this zone reaches all the way over into my area with my other disc. 10 is bleach. Okay, so we can see based on this that bleach is the most effective. So of all of these things that we've tested, bleach is going to have the largest zone of inhibition. It's going to be even tricky to get how large this zone is, but it's about 42 millimeters. Okay, so my zone of inhibition for bleach is about 42 millimeters. 11 is Lysol. Okay, so this is just regular Lysol spray. We got a pretty good zone here. I'm going to turn it this way to measure. I'm about 13. Well, let me take that back. About 15. I've got about 15 millimeters of my zone for the Lysol spray. And the last one here, this is an antiseptic wipe. This is benzalkonium chloride, what you would find in a first aid kit. Or sometimes you'll see these in the antibacterial hand wipes that you might buy. So this is benzalkonium chloride. This is effective against E. coli. We've got a zone of about 22, well, about 21 millimeters for our zone for the benzalkonium chloride from the antiseptic hand wipe. So of all of these, we can say that vinegar was not effective. We saw that Germ-X and alcohol, not effective. We see bleach is the most effective for this particular strain of E. coli.